Hello, my name's Jude. I'm a librarian for Kirklees Libraries, and welcome to our very first Poetry Dumpling. And yes, we will be telling you why it's called Poetry Dumpling in a conversation a little bit later. I'll just introduce Angela, who's on the opposite side of me. So, Angela, do you want to say who you are? Just an unmute.
Hi, I'm Angela. I work for Kirklees Libraries.
So we both absolutely love poetry. I love trying to write poetry, and I know Angela loves writing poetry because she's very accomplished at doing poetry writing. So we both love writing, listening, reading, hearing about poetry, but most of all, we love sharing poetry. And tomorrow is World Poetry Day. So that feels like a really good weekend to be launching our new poetry event. Poetry reaffirms our common humanity by revealing to us that individuals everywhere in the world share the same questions and feelings. Just going to pop a banner up very quickly to just show you where that information came from about World Poetry Day. So World Poetry Day happens every year on March the 21st, and it's celebrated because UNESCO kind of like brought it into being. And UNESCO is United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. And it recognizes the unique ability of poetry to capture the creative spirit of the human mind. And that's directly off their website. I just think it's such a wonderful thing to be able to say out loud, and I could certainly never have written it better than that. And it's held every year. World Poetry Day celebrates one of humanity's most treasured forms of cultural and linguistic expression and identity. It's been practiced throughout history, in every culture and on every continent. And when I hear that sentence, I just think, yes, every culture and every continent throughout history. Poetry speaks to our common humanity and our shared values, transforming the simplest poem into a powerful catalyst for dialogue and peace. Which, when I was reading that just the other day, it just kind of resonated about the fact that us here doing a poetry event in Kirklees and sharing it with everybody who's watching means that we're also tuning in to a World Poetry Day for tomorrow. So I hope you enjoy it very much. And I'm going to hand over to Angela now to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Jude. Yeah, it is wonderful. I love the idea of poetry for peace. Wonderful. So Kirklees Libraries have a large collection of poetry, ebooks and e-audiobooks, including classical poetry, right from Homer, Persian poets, Rumi and Hafez, the English Romantics, right up to young contemporary poets such as Ocean Vuong. The library is free to join. Just go to kirkleeslibraries.co.uk. So Poetry Dumpling is a live online poetry event brought to you by Kirklees Libraries, and we're showcasing local poets, bringing poetry to a wider audience, connecting people with local writing groups and giving those writing groups a platform to perform their work.
Great stuff.
The name Poetry Dumpling came about after a conversation between Jude and myself about how most cultures have some form of dumpling. For example, dim sum in China and pierogi in Poland, and momos, my favourite, in Nepal. We loved the connection between poetry and food. And we were thinking about how poetry can be and has been both comforting and nourishing during our time in lockdown.
Then we thought we'd just tell you a little bit how the next hour and a half is going to go. So I'm just going to pop a little ticker tape along the bottom, which if you want to read that while I talk as well, that'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing today. So we have already started by doing the introduction. As soon as Angela and I have stopped talking, then we'll be handing over to our guest poets. We'll be staying on screen because we'll be having an in conversation with our guest poets, and they'll be doing some performing of their own poetry, some of it from their published collections, some of it I imagine that it'll be brand new. And also we'll be getting some tips on how to start writing your own poetry, or maybe some tips on how to get re-inspired. We'd love you to get involved. So if you have any questions or comments that you want to send through to us, just go into the chat box wherever you're watching this. That might be YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Type away, send them over to us, and we'll answer as many things as we can as we go along. I also just want to mention that if you're a local writers group, or you belong to a local writers group and you're watching this, we'll give you a shout out at the end as well. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I guess the best thing to do is move quite swiftly along to talk about guest poets that we've got. I'll just remove the ticker tape from there. Do you want to tell us a bit about the guest poets, Ange?
Yeah, I'm really excited that we've got with us for the launch of our first ever Poetry Dumpling. We've got the wonderful Gaia Holmes and Winston Plowes. Gaia is a freelance writer, poet and creative writing tutor who works with schools, universities, libraries and other community groups throughout the West Yorkshire region. She runs Igniting the Spark, a weekly writing workshop at Dean Clough, Halifax, and she is the co-host with Winston Plowes of Muesli, an online writing group. She's had 3 full-length poetry collections published by Comma Press: Dr. James Graham's Celestial Bed, Lifting the Piano with One Hand, Where the Road Runs Out in 2018, and Tales from the Tachograph, a collaborative work with Winston Plowes, published in 2017 by Calder Valley Poetry. Her short stories have been published in several anthologies, the most recent being the new Abject, Tales of Modern Unease, published last year by Comma Press.
Wow, so super. Hi, Gaia.
Hi, Gaia. And Winston teaches creative writing to adult groups in person and via distance learning online for universities and schools, and has been poet in residence at Beach Hill Primary School, Halifax, since 2016. His solo collection of surrealist found poetry, Telephones, Love Hearts and Jellyfish, was published in 2017 by Electric Press. His next collection, First of All, I Wrote Your Name, will be published by Stairwell Books later in 2021, fingers crossed. Winston is also the proud inventor of the world's first, and possibly last, random poetry generating bicycle, the Spoken Word, and the Poem-O-Matic, an interactive art installation and poem generator that produces text from pure electricity. Welcome, Gaia and Winston.
Hi, both of you.
Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, you're
yes,
unmuted.
You're both unmuted.
Hello.
So the first question then to both of you, as this is our first ever Poetry Dumpling, is: do you think that poetry equates with food? Winston.
Oh well, yes. I don't think there's been a poet who could honestly. By the way, Angela, thank you for making us both sound so amazing. That was
But you are.
But well, thank you. Yes, I don't think there is a poet who could claim that there's nothing about it, is there? I think it's such a natural thing to equate words and food and gourmet and recipes and kitchens and mixing ingredients. I mean, I've just got to read the recipes of Nigel Slater and his accounts of foraging, and that's like reading poetry. To be honest, I was struggling a little bit with the dumplings, and because well, I'm not a big dumpling fan, but I thought that the Yorkshire pudding might suffice as a sort of Yorkshire replacement. And I even thought that I might write a couple of poems on the Yorkshire pudding itself and read them from the pudding. Well,
Wonderful.
It's a good idea, but it's not worked so well in reality.
Are you going to do that whilst we're live, Winston?
Yeah, well, who knows? Anything could happen in the next half hour.
Absolutely, it could.
Yeah. And Gaia, do you have a favourite dumpling? And do you think poetry equates with food?
I definitely think poetry equates with food because I'm not very good at giving feedback in poetry workshops on the spot, but I have this thing where I often compare poems to food. So I'll say, oh, that's like a really rich chocolate gâteau, or that's like a fruitcake, or that's like a bowl of soup. It's really comforting. Or yeah, so I do take comfort in poetry, and there's many different kinds of poetry as there are many different kinds of foods, but my writing is particularly fueled with food, so I can't separate the two really.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
Can we hear some of your poems now? Gaia, do you want to read us something? And
Yeah.
then Winston.
So.
Okay, this first poem, it's a little bit sad, but I have a fascination with words from other languages that don't quite have an exact translation into our language. And there's a word called hygge, which is, to give it a basic translation, it's about coziness and comfort, but it's so much more than that. And there's a German word, and when I heard this word, I fell in love with it. The word is Kummerspeck, and it literally means grief bacon. And it's talking about when you're grieving or sad, the extra food you eat to counteract the grief. And I just want to say before I read this that I'm a vegetarian. But yeah, so Kummerspeck. Grief needs feeding. At first we feed it sweet and boneless things, memories, halva, meringue, the songs the gone used to sing. We feed it whole boxes of Cornish fudge, marzipan gnawed straight from the block, cold custards sucked straight from the carton. And for a while we appease it until it starts begging for blood, and then we turn to the dead things. And though we've not touched flesh for years, we find ourselves in the supermarket filling our trolleys with meat, the reddest, most visceral kind, packs of mince and liver, black pudding, knotty hearts, plump kidneys, slabs of beef and livid steaks, things that leak and mourn and colour in their polystyrene trays. And though we cook without tears, our lonely kitchens smell of dying, our garish fridges stink of butcher's gutters, drift-tide rot, things on the turn, gashes on the brink of gangrene. Every meal's a little wound, our plates are holes we cannot fill, like grief our hunger is edgeless.
Wow, thank you for that, Gaia. That conjures up so many kind of you can almost smell, see, touch the things you were talking about. It's, yeah, very evocative, very, very evocative. Yeah, links very closely with food.
And I think the thing about the poem is just that extreme. As I said, I'm a vegetarian, but
yes,
you sort of this desire for the blood and the flesh in grief, it just turns you inside out. And
yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Shall we ask if Winston's got any? Do you have something you'd like to read about food or the Yorkshire pudding or whichever?
Yeah,
I'll just bring you up a bit, Winston.
We can go for food certainly, and for this first poem. Oh, by the way, I'm also a vegetable-tarian, but there is no meat-eating items in this poem, and
Okay.
it's I don't know how other poets have felt, but I found that during lockdown, almost everything I wrote seemed to have something to do with the pandemic, the circumstances, even when I wasn't trying to. Hey, it was only like a couple of years ago that Greggs introduced the vegetarian sausage roll, which some people say is even better than the traditional. So
In fact,
that's featured in this poem.
Fantastic. I am a fan of the Greggs vegan sausage roll very much.
Yes. And I've written the title of this first poem on my pudding as a substitute for the dumpling, and it's called Thinning Out, because we've all had to thin out a little bit over this last year or two. Thinning out. I wish I could write you a note on a peeled beer mat. Last night I heard that the florists of Holland are burning all their flowers, that the perfume smoke can be for miles. I wish we could go back to before everything shifted, before our hugs and handshakes became weapons, back to the terraces and queues, to being shoals of commuters in 2 daily tides. Just this morning, I saw the last sausage roll of its species escaping the ovens before Greg's locked down. Do you ever wonder if we might become extinct? If our world just got moving so fast to stand still? There you go. My first poem.
Fantastic. Thank you. And what I think to ponder on about not only the vegan sausage rolls, obviously, but about moving so fast as well. And do you wonder if we'll ever go extinct? Oh, we're moving super fast. That was really, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking at Angela because she might have some comments as well about those two wonderful poems we just heard.
Yeah, sorry, I have to keep remembering to unmute myself. Yeah, great poems. Love it. Let's go on to the next question, Jude.
Absolutely. And I just want to mention as well that obviously food is a very, we all eat in one way or another. So what a great way to be inspired to write something by your favorite Bakewell tart, or whether you like a Greg's sausage roll or Yorkshire pudding, or, you know, a big stodgy dumpling and stew. It's a great way to start thinking about how to get started, isn't it? To doing your own writing. So let's have a look at what our next question. How and when did you get started writing poetry? I don't mind who answers first, Winston or Gaia.
Well, I'll
Gaia.
answer. I
Okay.
think it's always been with me, Jude. Yeah, maybe at school, maybe when I went to big school when I was 11, and I wrote a poem about the teacher, and a little piece of paper, and it got passed around the class, and so eventually, of course, it found its way to him, and it just a moment, sausage, we're live on air. Sorry, it's the cat.
Oh, I was going to say you were talking to a sausage. I was beginning to wonder.
Yeah, all my cats have food-based names. The last two were called Bubble and Squeak, and this one is called Sausage.
Oh, lovely. We're all going to be
sometimes
starving,
makes
but
a
I'm
guest
really
appearance
hungry.
during Zoom sessions.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, and the cat in between those was called Fatty. So yeah, with their names, you can't change them. They all came with those food-based names. So where was I? Yes. So the poem I wrote in the classroom found its way to the teacher, and he thought he'd call my bluff and make me read it out in front of the class, and which I did, and it was slightly derogatory, but he didn't hold it against me. In fact, he gave me the school prize that year in his subject. So and I've still got the prize, which ironically is a dictionary.
Oh.
In 1979, which makes me feel as though I might become extinct, as you said earlier. So yeah, I think that's where it started. I think I got a thirst for reading and performing poetry then. And in fact, look, here we are. Here's the lady sausage herself. Look at the camera, sausage.
Hi,
Look at the camera.
sausage.
We're live. We had ticker tape earlier. It was like Nine News.
It's always
what
nice
about you,
to
Gaia?
see the pets. Let's hand over to Gaia.
So I was very lucky, and I still am lucky, to have very eccentric parents. and very supportive. They basically said, whatever your passion is, you follow that passion.
Wow.
And mine was, well, I think I used to do little books as a kid with crayons and staple them together, and that was the beginning. And then I got into poetry because we lived in an old church, and it was quite dilapidated, but there was a front room, and there was wall to wall with books, and there were things like Tolstoy and Dickens, and then there were a few poetry books. And this is the first poetry book. This is the book that got me into poetry. It's an anthology of modern poetry, and this is when 1964. And my mum read me. Yeah, my mum read me. You won't be able to see it, but in fact, I'd like to read it. It's a poem by William Carlos Williams that everybody probably knows about plums. I forgot the food connection.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just 12 lines, so simple, yet I got the feeling of these cold plums and the taste of them. And this is what got me into poetry. I thought, that's magic. This poem is just magic. So
Wow.
this is
Would you like to read it now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's only very short. It's by William Carlos Williams. This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. And there's so much more to it than just the plums. There's apologies, and so yeah, that's what got me into poetry. And then
that's so nice. It's so lovely to hear how people start to get that little spark that makes them just think, oh, this is so luscious, and this is just something that I'd like to try. I think sometimes it's that just having a go, isn't it, yourself, and seeing what happens, and being impassioned by somebody else's writing, and just think, oh, I could write a poem about a banana or some jelly, or but obviously not always about food. Gone down the food route. And do we have another question? And then
shall we have some more poems? Yeah.
Yay, please.
Let's have some more poems.
Winston, would you like to do another reading?
Yes, I'll try. I don't have a banana poem, and I don't have a jelly poem, but I do have a poem that's got a little bit of food in it. Yeah, it's got eggshells and it's got lemons in this one. There's a famous poetry incident, isn't there, which you might be aware of very briefly in the war, where the French who were invaded were encouraged to rise up and grasp their freedom. And the poet Paul Eluard wrote his poem Liberty, and it was dropped by the RAF over France in its thousands. It was like a poetry bomb going off.
Oh, wow.
All the words settling over France, and people would read that. Hopefully it would inspire them to fight. It's a stunning thing, isn't it? I love that example of how poetry can be broadcasted really in unconventional ways.
Absolutely.
And it's sort of inspired by that, and in a way it's the opposite to that poem, because he's talking about liberty and freedom, and this poem he's talking about hiding. We've done a lot of hiding. We've all been sort of locked up rather this last year or two. And it is called Hiding, and I have inscribed hiding on another Yorkshire pudding for you.
How many Yorkshire puddings have you got there? That's fantastic.
There's another 10 to come.
Yes.
Hiding. They are anti-Bessies. Well, I must add, we don't cut any corners when it comes to Poetry Dumplings. Hiding. I will hide between the segments of a lemon under the snow and in plain sight, between the petals of a flower under the sand and over the hill. I will hide between the pages of a book, under your pillow and within your dreams. I will hide between dusk and dawn, under your shadow and beyond the horizon. And one day, when all the hiding is over, and we're allowed to merge like an eggshell, like the softest note. And now I will never let you go.
Yay!
I loved that hiding under your shadow. It's just so, it was just so fragile. It sounded so fragile, the whole poem. Gorgeous. Thanks, Winston.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Let's hear from Gaia again.
I'll just unmute you, Gaia.
Oh, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are now.
Yeah, so it's every year for Christmas I make my mum a collection of my own poetry, and some of it. So this is the one that I gave her at Christmas. It's called Oxytocin, and there's a picture of a bird on the front. You can't really see it, but oxytocin is the drug that's released when you have physical contact, and it can be from hugging another person or from touching a pet, stroking a cat or a dog. So the poems in this are very much about the past year of the pandemic, and so we've sort of been a bit on hold. And I was thinking last year actually, when we first went into lockdown, spring was racing ahead. It was doing its full blooming, daffodil bouncing stuff, and we were like, "Oh, wait for us! We're way behind you. We're locked up." So this is called "We'll Have to Catch Up Next Year," and it's about trying to put spring on hold so we can arrive at the same time as spring. We have to get up very early to force the crocuses back into their bulbs, to tape a piece of sugar paper over the sun, to tamp down the world's green, to quieten the blossoms. We want it to wait, this well-dressed spring that carries on without us, because we are beginning to fray a little. We are edged with blue as we overwinter in our sealed houses, and blizzards continue to rage from our radios, and the old season creeps in to gild our captive life with its ice. It's April, but whatever we do inside, we do in the bitter months. Icicles form on the bath taps, water freezes in the pipes, birds pilfer cream from the tops of our bottles where they've left on our doorsteps, but the dawn chorus is louder than it ever was before.
Wow, amazing. I love that dawn chorus is louder than ever before, because I think we've all noticed that, haven't we, where we can hear nature much more, whether it's the wind going through the trees or the birds in the morning or evening, or just the sound of footsteps on the streets or animals in the undergrowth. I know when I've been going for my daily lockdown walk, I've heard a lot more things than I would do normally, because the cars have been less and people have been less. And somebody was talking about how you can see more stars at the moment as well, can't we? But who knows? Any thoughts, Ange, on that, or should we move on to another question?
I'm just conscious of the time, so
we're rushing
I think, so let's have another
we
question.
would all day, couldn't we?
So I know, I think I didn't think it was going to be long enough. I could sit here all afternoon chatting to Gaia and Winston. So as this the Poetry Dumpling is one of its purposes is to encourage new writers. I wondered if you would have any tips on how you approach the writing process. So, for example, when you start writing, do you have an idea where it will go, or how does it evolve?
Am I unmuted?
Yep, you're unmuted.
With poetry, it just comes. The idea just comes, and I go with it. And I've recently started writing short stories, and they're completely different. So I need the beginning, the middle, and the end. But poetry, I think with me, poetry is very connected to my heart, and it just comes out as a big splurge, and then I neaten it up a bit and put some stars in it. But in terms of starting writing, I'd just really recommend that you just read. Read as much as you can, and read bad poetry and try and work out what makes it bad for you. Read good poetry, try and work out what makes it good for you. And I think probably jumping forward a question, but that you were asking which particular poet I would recommend to somebody who's just getting into poetry. I would say Pablo Neruda, because he's very accessible and very strong images. He doesn't write to form generally, and that might intimidate people. I think some people want a form to adhere to. But then I'd just recommend that you get a poetry anthology, so you can decide which poets you like. And this is backwards, isn't it? This is, I think it's the 4th anthology from Blood Axe. They're very thick. There's got to be a poem you like in there. This is, Staying Human. It's brilliant. I've met loads of new poets that I love. It's been an expensive month since I got this book. And different styles of poetry, poets from all over the world. So very much a Poetry Dumpling book. And just read. That's what I'd say.
So that's an anthology called Staying Human.
Yeah, and it's by Blood Axe.
And I'm pretty sure we have that as part of our books as well, don't we, Angela? As part of our ebook collection in the libraries. Sorry, Angela's on mute.
May well have. I know we have some of the others in the series.
Yeah, wonderful.
So what do you think, Winston? How do you approach the writing process? You have quite a novel method, don't you? Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. I have different ways, I think, of creating poems. A lot of my ideas actually arise when I'm going for a run. And it used to be when I used to do long bicycle rides. And I think the rhythm of running or cycling or walking, I think that helps. Go for a walk. Jude just mentioned her daily lockdown walk. And I think that's a great idea. I know that, who was it now?
Wordsworth.
The Origin of Species. It was Charles Darwin, wasn't it? He walked around in circles on his lawn to help him think. He just walked around in circles as he was trying to plan his book. So walking's good. I've got another plan. I'm really quite excited about this. And it's a great question, Angela. And look, I've got a little book here, and it came blank, and it's like the smallest notebook in the world, and it came with an eBay purchase from the British Red Cross. And when I went on my daily walk, Jude, I tried to find something to put in the book every day, or I just recorded something that somebody said to me, or some food I liked, or a film I liked, or a comment I liked, and so it's filling up just with positive things. Yeah.
Wow.
So look, Angela, give me a number between 1 and 17.
3.
3. So on page 3, I mean, I don't know what there's going to be there, but I can guarantee you that whatever's there, some of those things on page 3, I will have forgotten that I saw, so it will remind me of those positive experiences. And page 3 then, simple one, running along the canal towpath, a very friendly man in the co-op, chips again, this time with cheese, and then it says, my partner's radio play being broadcast on Radio 4, and then the reflection of the water on the trees. And I've forgotten about most of those things, especially the friendly man in the co-op. So I can use any of those as a little springboard for a poem.
What a lovely
just
idea.
Keep going, and I'm on page 17. It's easy to do. Smaller the better. You've got the best chance then of keeping it going. I know a lot of people write journals and they don't carry on, but it's something like a micro journal like this you can do. And also to add a little bit of information to Gaia's answer there for the next question, I would also recommend anthologies. and
Yeah.
Pablo Neruda, and I can give you a nice quote to demonstrate how Pablo Neruda
Put
is
his
just
name
like
up,
reading
actually.
magic. When he says, put his name up there. Let's say his name, Pablo Neruda. He was a poet of the people, of
He was.
working men, and his words are magic. And he said, "I love you because I know no other way than this, where I does not exist, nor you, so close that your hand on my chest is my hand, so close that your eyes close as I fall asleep."
Gosh,
Beautiful.
I know. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I just put his name up because sometimes it's quite
Yeah.
hard to spell it in your head, isn't it? If you're
Yeah.
wondering how to
Yeah.
find that poet, it's
Yeah.
another way. And I've got a little notebook. Sorry, I know I'm jumping
Yeah.
in because Angie's going to speak.
And
I've
when
got a
we
little
read this,
notebook,
when we-
and you've totally inspired me on what to do with it. I was going to try and collect conversations, little snippets of conversations, but I'm going to use it on my lockdown walk. So thank you very much, Winston.
Yeah.
And over to Angela.
Yeah, no, I'm really keen to hear some more of Gaia and Winston's poetry.
Me too.
Please.
So who'd like to go next?
Yeah. Yeah. Gaia, let's hear from
Oh,
Gaia.
all right, okay. Oh, yes. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're good.
So this is from my latest collection. It's called Where the Road Runs Out.
Oh.
And talking about little details in the world, I love seeing typos. Not in a piece of writing that I'm working on, but menus and things like that. And there was a takeaway, I can't remember where it was, but it said it had on the menu deep fried lamp instead of deep fried lamb, as in lamp, the thing that lights your room. And I thought, oh wow, what an idea. I wonder what a light bar would be like. So this is about going to a light bar where you can buy light. It's called Last Orders at the Light Bar. The cheapest you can buy is a thick bruised light that follows heavy rain. The brash blue glare of fly repellent lights, the mean frowsy light from high-rise stairwells, or the soft speckled gold of a microwave cooking its load in the darkness. Middle of the range is the subtle kind, light glossing a bowl of green apples, the muted glimmer of koi carp in a pond, sea light squeezed and filtered through a porthole, the amber Rembrandt bloom of a country pub at night, or the quick flash of first light bouncing off cans of Strongbow in the corner shop. The pricey one that's craved but rarely drunk is the afterglow. They say it's like drinking silk or blended glowworms. Those who've drunk it wear its warmth for weeks. At night their fingertips crackle like bonfire sparklers. Their tongues are embers in their mouth. The insides of their throats are the colour of foxfire. Some get hooked, drink too much, and acquire an insincere dazzle. Light thickens on their teeth, their smiles become punches. Everything pales beneath their touch, and their bodies bleach the bedsheets.
Fantastic. I just love how you mix up the different senses, Gaia. Drinking silk is just wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and that's something I know because I've been in one of your workshops, but that's something that you suggest to writers, isn't it? To use all their senses when they're writing. Yeah. So, and Winston, let's hear from you again.
Oops. There we go.
Oh, I've gone big again.
You have?
What a
It's
beautiful
magic.
poem, and
Was beautiful.
what a beautiful poem. And after lockdown, when that bar reopens, I want to go up to the bar, and the bloke will say, "What do you want, sir?" I say, half a pint of the muted glimmer of koi carp. See what he says. We're continuing with the food theme. We're continuing with the food theme, and now we've got a lemon here. So again, also linking with Pablo Neruda, because one of my favourite poems from him is Ode to a Lemon. He wrote odes about all sorts of things, including lemons, and this poem is all about lemons. It's called Zest. I'll just read it. Zest. I can't remember Grandma. She's preserved in the age of sugar and lemons, when the hot fuss and rattle from the kitchen put a tower of pancakes on the family table. Eldest went first, riddled over silver spoon from the snow-white bag with crisp creases. Then, psst, a squirt of zest from the soft yellow bulb with the tiny scoop. Each batter mirror expertly chased around the hot pan with the back of a ladle and like her memories, like the seasons of.
I think you froze a bit there, actually, Winston, but I think we heard most of that. It was wonderful. The conjuring up of that pancake wandering across around the pan and the smell of it and the zest. Beautiful. Thank you. Let's get everybody back to the same place. And Gaia's popped her hand up. Hi, Gaia. Oh, I'll just unmute you.
There we go. Can we hear the last word of Winston's poem? Because that's what it cut out on the last word.
It did.
Great. Let's hear it again.
The last line.
Yes, the last stanza was each batter miracle expertly chased around the hot pan with the back of a ladle and stacked like her memories, like the seasons of her life.
Wow.
Thank you.
Gosh. Oh, that quite touched me. Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've got a question, mainly for Winston, but for both of you, I suppose.
One as well. Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Is that okay? Can I ask? Yeah. So I know that you you collaborated on this. There we go. Tales from the Tachograph, didn't you? So I just wondered, how did it come about? Because it's a curious collection, isn't it? Set on motorways and service stations. I wondered how it came about and what it was like to work collaboratively.
Gaia and I are partners, just so people know. And a few years ago, we had to do a lot of travelling together, didn't we? We had to travel to the Orkney Islands in my little white van. And I think it sort of didn't the idea start up shortly after there, where we were doing a lot of motorway travelling. I've always liked this poem by Simon Armitage, the motorway service station as a destination in its own right, which is a bit like a sort of pumped up list poem, really. It is a list of things, but each one is quite elaborate, each item in the list. And so we just got thinking about motorway service stations and how strange they are. Where are you when you're in, you might be at Kiel, but where is Kiel? Where's the nearest town? What are those lights in the distance? What would happen if you jumped over the fence and just kept going through the fields? They're like little cities, aren't they? In miniature. And really strange things happen there. People are there to meet in secret. People are there to just sleep briefly. People are there to shop. People are there to just rest. People are there because they're lost. It is a strange place. And at night, it's even stranger. And so a lot of my poems were about those things that maybe happen or maybe don't, that we can pretend happen at services. But there's some poems in there about B roads and about smaller roads, and one or two about just the idea of travel as well. It's not just motorways. We also had a bit of a collaboration with help me out, Gail. What's she called? The lady who designed the fonts of all the motorway signs.
I can't.
it's in the back, Angela. You can have a look there. So yeah, Margaret Calvert. There you go. Yes, Margaret Calvert, and she's a lovely woman, and she invented our signage system in this country. So when you see a sign for schools, you've got the girl who's leading across a little boy just in silhouette on the red triangular sign.
Yeah.
She thought, well, I'm going to put the female character first, doing the leading. She's a bit of a feminist, and I think that's fantastic. And she just looked out of her window in the field next door. There was a cow in the farmer's field, so she drew the cow. So if you see the warning sign for the cow, that is actually a cow. She knew by its name. I don't know.
Wow. Gosh.
So I spoke to Margaret. I was lucky enough to link up with her, and I spoke to her, and she had a bit of an input into the whole thing as well. And the colour blue, if you just hold it up, Angela, you'll see that it's a blue book, and that colour is actually matched to the exact blue of the motorway signs that you will see every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh. And if somebody wanted to get hold of that book, how would they do that?
Gaia, I'll let you.
Calder Valley Press.
Calder Valley Press.
Yeah, it's Calder Valley Press, isn't it? And they've got a website with some great Yorkshire local poets. Really good. They're all that format, nice pamphlet. Just there's a good selection, but you can buy our collection from there.
So maybe Google Calder Valley Press, and you're likely to come up with that and have a look for the collection on there. Fantastic, wonderful, fab.
I think we've got a question in the chat, haven't we? Somebody, yeah. Do you want to?
And then I think we might, after we've done this, maybe we'll just have one more reading from both of you, because our time's nearly up. We've got about 2 minutes, so we can always get another couple of minutes and nick it from right at the end. We can overrun a little bit, because I'm sure it'll be fine. So Gary Grindle, do you want to read it, Angela? I've done a lot of talking. Oh, let's unmute you.
So yeah, big shout out to Gary.
Hi, Gary.
These are lovely poems, Gaia and Winston. And Gary would like to know, has lockdown been a spur or a hindrance to your writing?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
For me, it's just I've had a lot of time to think about things that are really important, and my writing has changed. I think I'm approaching subjects beyond myself rather than interior subjects, and so for me, I've been able to look at the world differently. So it's definitely gone into my poetry and my fiction. So yeah, it has been horrible in many ways, but in terms of writing, it's been really good for making me think about different things.
Great. Wow. Oh, and what about you, Winston?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question, Gary. Thank you. I think it's maybe been both. I think for the first part, lockdown 1, I think we had more time, as Gaia said. I wrote a poem every day in lockdown 1 and put those together with pictures, a bit like a Japanese haiga. And I think now, looking back on them, I had massive ideas to publish them in a book, and I think I did them for myself, and I quite like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think I made those for myself, and I think those helped me through in the second and third lockdowns that we've had. As a teacher of adults and children, I've just been so ridiculously overwhelmed with work and trying to reformat everything into paper, into Zoom, into a film, that I just hadn't had any time. So really strange times, and it's been.
It's like that, isn't it? A bit up and down, and
it really is.
round and round,
we don't
and
really know. It is, and there's a song in that. But we don't know where it's going to go, do we? We don't know. But let's hang on to hope. I think poets have a really important role to play in this pandemic.
I agree, absolutely. So, shall we just, have you both got a reasonably short little poem that we could finish on for you as our our first ever guest poets for Poetry Dumpling?
It's brilliant. We're dumpling virgins. I've got a tiny poem.
Never heard that before.
I'll read that one.
Great stuff.
And nor will you ever hear it again, hopefully. But yes, I'll go first because Gaia's poem is bound to be fantastic. And I've got a really tiny poem here. And I'm quite pleased that I managed to stay to the food theme. I didn't know that would happen.
We didn't intend to do that,
Egg.
did we? Oh, cool.
No, but look, I mean, this is like a little miracle here. It's a hard-boiled egg, but as a poet, you can't interact with a hard-boiled egg without getting really excited. It is just the most amazing thing, and I'm getting a bit messy here, but like the yellow bit in the middle and the texture of the thing, and then the taste. Beautiful. But I must just before I taste it, I must just read the egg poem. Releasing a hard-boiled egg from its shell, and soft, a diocese of white, stormed in the pan. I held your metallic escape like a dog taught to snatch, journey into a new age of elegance. A yellow big butter in the tongue. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing.
Oh, that was so sensuous, Winston. Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I could really, I could taste it. I could taste it.
I'm getting so hungry. Shall we swiftly move on? I'm so sorry to say swiftly. I'm just really conscious that we've got our lovely local writers group as well for the live mic coming up, and we're already very slightly over time. So if Gaia could come up next, and then we'll hear the final poem from Gaia as well.
Okay.
Gaia's website up.
So, flowers. And I love flowers, and I think, everybody should love flowers. But this is called Some Men Deserve Roses. Some men deserve roses because of the soft way they talk to their mothers, because they bulk buy sacks of tulip bulbs when the world is running out of flowers. The Frozen.
No, I was waiting for more. That was very short.
Yeah.
I was
Thanks, Gaia.
very, very evocative.
Yeah. Some men deserve flowers, roses. Some men deserve roses.
Yeah, amazing. I think I'm really sad to say, but we might have to say goodbye. Yeah. And I don't want to be the last one standing.
No. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Gaia and Winston. That was wonderful. Thank you for joining us on Poetry Dumpling, and we hope you'll come back.
It was just absolutely a privilege. Yeah. Thank you for all the Yorkshire puddings and the eggs and the flowers.
Yeah. So, are we going to a break? I'm going to
take my hard-boiled egg with my
or the Yorkshire pudding. Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you, for being so enthusiastic about joining us and supporting us with this project, and being so generous, sharing tips and your poetry with the whole of the world, but definitely.
Thanks, Gaia and Winston.
So we're all going to move off for a quick break, and then we're going to welcome people to our live mic. So if people want to just stretch the legs or move around, do the shoulders, take a couple of deep breaths, and then we'll be back in probably about 3 to 4 minutes to welcome Batley Poets to the virtual stage, I'm going to say. So thank you so much again. That was just beautiful. So let's just all shoot off screen very quickly, and then I might have to have a snack because I'm so hungry, and I'm just going to stand up, grab a tiny bit of water, come back, and then we'll be here if anybody's got any questions for the second half, and we'll welcome the Batley Poets in then. Is that okay? Cool. I'll just remove myself very briefly. Hi, so welcome back to our lovely Poetry Dumpling. Angela and I are now on screen. I'm just having a quick look to see if any of the Batley Poets have arrived as yet. And it looks like at least one or two are here. So I'm going to start welcoming the Batley Poets to our Poetry Dumpling. I'll just ask Bilal if he'd happily join in. Hi, Bilal. I'll just unmute you. Oop. There we go.
Hi.
And we have Jem. Hi, Jem. Mohammed. Hi, Mohammed. Let's see who else is about, Mohammed, one of our guests from previous things as well. Hi, Mohammed. And we have a couple who seem to be waiting in the wings a little bit. So I'll just wait until they've absolutely appeared. So Sophie looks like she's here as well. Fantastic. I think the best thing, if it works with everybody else, is that, excuse me, when the other two appear properly, we'll ask them to join us on screen if that suits you. So I'm just going to get a banner up that tells everybody who you are. So let's just get Batley Poets up, batleypoets.co.uk. And if somebody would like to introduce who and what and why Batley Poets have joined us today, that would be fantastic, because I'm sure everybody would like to know a little bit about Batley Poets if they haven't heard of you already. So would you be okay doing that, Bilal?
Yeah, I'm fine doing that.
Cool. I'll just make you a bit larger. There we go. Cool.
So the Batley Poets started, I think, in 2012 at the first Batley Festival, where Mark Griffin, who sort of founded Batley Poets, was given a task to fill a room with something, because it was an empty room during the festival, and decided to fill it with poetry. And some groups of poets came. So the Gujarati Writers Forum, the Yorkshire Dialect Group, and some local poets, some of whom hadn't read their poetry out to anyone throughout their entire lives.
Gosh.
And so he realized that there's so many poets in the sort of our local area who just haven't shared any poetry they've written. Some who might have been 20 years old, some who might have been 40 years old or 60 years old. And so we decided to start the Batley Poets. And our aim is just to get sort of bedroom poets, people who've been writing for years and haven't shared anything, to just bring them into the light and share their poetry and encourage them to continue writing and sharing what they have. And so we started a website called batleypoets.co.uk to try and share some of that poetry to a wider audience. And we hold sort of events and open mics to try and get people to come out the shadows and just share those words.
Wonderful. So giving people the opportunity to just take that first step into sharing things that they'd maybe never shared before.
Yeah.
What a wonderful, oh wow, that's wonderful. And I know we're going to be hearing some of the poetry today. So let me just make you a tiny bit smaller and then see if we've got everybody here who should be here. Are we missing a few people? I'm just going to mention to great. Does that look like everybody's here who needs to be here?
There's Jackie, Sophie, and Tahira.
Tahira seems right. So yeah, Tahira could come in, not actually on screen, but as a symbol to be here as well. Let's just make sure. Right, cool. Oh, Sophie is here as well. Wonderful. Brilliant. So I think what we'd like to do is just say over to the Batley Poets to share with some of their poetry. We're running a tiny bit late, but I'm sure nobody will mind if we go a couple of minutes over 3:30, which is when we were going to start, because I'm sure everybody would rather, get a chance to listen to everybody who's part of the Batley Poets as well. So I guess over to you, and I'll just enlarge people who are speaking so you really get the floor. And then we can sit in the shadows if you want any conversation or just a bit of a chat as well.
Okay. I think I'll start because generally speaking, it's fairly difficult at events to get anyone to start reading poetry first. And this one is surprisingly also about food. It doesn't really have much of a title because I don't really like titles because I'm very bad at making them.
Quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I'll just start. I am being haunted by cake. In the morning when I wake, I can taste it on the tip of my tongue. I'm woken to the smell of coffee and toffee cakes, of lemon drizzle, chocolate puddings, red velvet, ice cream, Battenberg, but it's all in my imagination. After 6 hours of fasting, the day has barely begun and it's frosting that I'm craving. I've had nightmares of being ruled by Queen Victoria sponges and daydreamed in fear of Black Forest gateau lunches. When I leave the house, it's all that I see. There's no safe place to run, no cakeless place to flee. They sit on the windowsills of the shop window and watch my every move and follow me with their aroma, the scents of the sweetest and tastiest of foods, deliciously attempting to seduce my starving mood. A delectably placed slice has my eyes glued. They stare at me with their sprinkles, freshly lit candles begging, pleading, demanding, eat me, eat me. My empty stomach rumbles on, tempting me for a bite. Were I not fasting, eating all 23 cakes would be a delight. Just then comes along a friend with a baker's touch. After hours in a kitchen, they've made a cupcake lunch. They want me to try just one little piece. I'm fasting, I say. When will this torture cease? There's no sanctuary when I head to the mosque running. The imam is dressed in the colors of a sticky toffee pudding. I must be hallucinating because when I get back home, there's a cake in the garden in the shape of a gnome. I've thought about cake through morning and afternoon, so much so that my watering mouth has started a monsoon. As the time comes for my fast to be broken, out comes an enormous cake that's spent all day hidden away. But I've already had 3 samosas, and I must admit, I'm much too full to eat even one little bit. Thank you.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
And next, I want to sort of introduce a poet who has published his own book, Jem.
Thank you, Bilal. I'm normally better known for comic verse, so this is a bit of an unusual poem for me. I can't go into detail, but last week through work, I was tangentially involved with an incident where a man tragically took his own life. And part of my process when things like that happen through work is I write. So I wrote this and literally finished it an hour ago. It's called Man Down. I'm off for a walk. I'm just so sick and tired. Leave my luggage behind, no jacket required. Nobody clocks me as I make my escape. If anyone asks, I've just gone for a vape. The bed's freshly made, neat hospital corners. I'll not be missed, there won't be any mourners. It won't be a long stroll, much less than a mile. I'll not chat to strangers, give their children a smile. Uphill all the way, but not downhill back. I'm a man on a mission with no time to chat. Pause at the curb, but forget Green Cross code. There's a lorry approaching with a fast-setting load. Just one more step, this will be my last. A mother and child, mouths open, aghast. Blue lights come quickly, but several years late. Time of death is called at 11:38. Thank you.
Gosh, that's very poignant. Very, very poignant. Thank you. Very moving.
Next up, I think I have Tahira. She's there. Yep.
I'll just move. I keep moving everybody a bit. Sorry, sometimes there's a very slight delay with getting everybody onto the big screen. I do apologise. Hi, Tahira.
Hiya, it's great to be here. So I've also got a poem related to lockdown. I think that's probably a common theme across poetry these days. And it's called A Game of Hide and Seek. Lockdown changed the game of hide and seek. I began by looking for you in the house, but often you're nowhere to be found. So I went outside to seek you out, always adhering to lockdown rules. If anything, you're sometimes harder to find outside. Places old and new, different times of day. It was like we weren't destined to meet. No encounter, chance encounter or otherwise. So on those rare days when I found you, it really felt like I won more than a game. Even encounters were as brief as 30 seconds. Because you'd soon disappear again, and start to find you again as I need you. Just like I need my sleep more than ever. Late at night, early in the morning, you appear. When the family and neighbours are asleep, silence, solitude. The search for you is always ongoing. Thank you.
Very good. Wow. Gosh, I do wish we'd got loads of time so we could have a conversation about every poem. I'm so sorry. I think that's another event that we're going to do.
The next poet I have is, incidentally, my dad, and he's also written his own poetry collections. Mohammed Sallu.
Thank you, Bilal, and thank you for inviting us here. Yes, I have released 2 books last Sunday, so fresh off the press after decades of writing, Batley Lad and Loss. So I'm going to read a short poem from each, if that's okay. Well, hopefully short. So the first one is from Loss, and it's called Time Heals. It will get easier, said a voice in many faces. Time will heal, alluding to forgetting this. But what if my will is different? What if easier is not my want? What if the healing time is not my wish? Would I be cruel to utter, to voice? Would it be selfish to keep this pain? For does it not bear your loss? Does it not hold your thought? Vivid in detail before open eyes, imaginary and yet real, as you were before these eyes in form. Your warmth still felt by my hand, your voice still heard by my ears. Is it cruel to hold on to this? Is it not cruel to let time take it away? When time heals and it becomes easier, will I still remember you as I do now? And my second one is from Batley Lad. Just to let you know, Loss is about, it's called Loss, a Voice of the Grieving, and it is about the grieving process that we go through. And this is from Batley Lad, an offering of poetry. Squiggly lines on tree-made pulp, that's all it is. Composition of ideas to plead a case, that's all it is. Fascinating terms and elaborate expressions, that's all it is. Pondering minds in verbal wit, that's all it is. A story to shiver the reader's spine, that's all it is. A madman's carving in drowning ink, that's all it is. A portion of a soul vulnerable and quivering, that's all it is. An opinion shared of oppressive lives, that's all it is. A loveless couplet of heart's true pain, that's all it is. A scream from the depths of darkened sorrow, that's all it is. A pain-stained tear concealed by a gleaming smile, that's all it is. A share of emotion with a fearless judgment, that's all it is. An offering of poetry, that's all it really is. Thank you.
Wow, gosh. We've got loads of lovely comments coming through as well. Everybody's enjoying this, so thank you. Lovely poems is what people are saying generally, so wonderful. Let me just remove Mohammed's. That was his website that was at the bottom when Mohammed was talking, so if anybody wants more information, please go there, and to the Batley Poets website, obviously. Sorry, Bilal, I seem to have taken over, and it's not mine to do, so sorry.
That's fine. So next up, I have Jackie Daumbro. If she's Jackie.
I can see Jackie there. Yeah. Hi, Jackie. I'll just unmute you. One moment.
Okay.
There we go.
I've dug out this poem about spring because it is gorgeous out there, and it's something that we need after this lockdown. Spring. Winter's creeping cold still pierces spring's feeble efforts, holds on to dampening shrouds, crushing unborn hopes of daylight lengthening. An ancient struggle as fertile soil nourishes verdant infant shoots, growing snowdrops, pristine white against the dark earth. Birds seduce with fluttered song, perched boldly on naked branches, waiting for thickening green to hide their nests from view. Tepid rays from a watery sun will strengthen to warm frosted soil, blossom and buds ready to show, spring's cacophony of colour, winter slowly fades. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful. I'll just bring this message up that just says from Sophia Patel, enjoying all the poems. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so next, Muhammad Faryab.
Let's just, sorry, let's go across. Supposed to be super powered at this, but not there yet. Are we, sorry, was it Muhammad Falava or was it? Are you okay to do it now, Muhammad? Is that okay, Muhammad Falava? Are you okay?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. So continuing with the food theme, I've got a food-related one, and this one's called gram flour. A staple I hear in a household of Asian or South Asian descent. However, its use I've only known to be one. Pakoras, for those that may be wondering. Some call it bhajis, onion bhajis, or even a bhajia if you're Gujarati. Add an S and you can pluralize to bhajias. Don't even remember buying it, but it's always there, in a tub, tucked in the corner, round or square. Whatever was left over, or sometimes just in a bag, unlabeled, but we all know. Its distinct colour, not quite white, not yellow. Waiting dutifully, always on hand. When the need arises, it's there on demand. Ample of it, whether by spoon, cup, or gram. This trusted friend never seems to run out. Unlike your eggs, milk, or even your bread, no need to plan ahead. Open the cupboard and it's there, ready to do its fair share. To quote anything in its batter, perfect for tea and a natter. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so next I have Sophie.
Welcome, Sophie.
Oh, that's it.
Hi.
Hi everyone. So I've got two quick poems. The second one is really short. The first one is a state of psychosis, and the second one is quite empowering. So here's the state of psychosis. The shadow in the wall I see so clearly, walking side to side, trapped daily. Hallucinations you experience, the doctor tells me. I walk up closer to see it's real. I move my hand, the shadow copies. I walk away and look back to see the shadow still standing, trapped in the wall. Whose shadow is trapped? It's me. Wherever I am, wherever I live, my soul is trapped in the walls I once called home. I am not free. My shadow won't leave. The shadow is trapped. I try to reach for the shadow but fail. Escape, my shadow won't leave. Trap the shadow is trapped. Trapped in a place I once called home. Wherever I am, wherever I live, my shadow is trapped in the walls of fear. I will never escape until my shadow is free, free from the horror that torments me.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. And this one's called In Search of a Hero. I went on a hunt to look for my hero, feeling like I am worth zero. So I set off on my journey only to find an adventure. These obstacles rather challenging, but my competitiveness thrilled me. And like a superhero on the comics I love, I flew straight over these, landed on my feet. With my hands on my waist, hair blowing in the wind, my cape roaring. I found the hero I was looking for. She was me all along. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Wonderful.
Finally, a final poet is Muhammad Baba.
Yes. Sorry, I think I'm going to get on some training. Let's just get Muhammad across. Yay.
Hello.
Hi,
Can you hear
Muhammad.
me?
Hi.
Amazing. Right. Okay. So this one is it's not about food, but it features food. And it's called Bags and Blazers Off. And I shall be attempting a really bad Scottish accent, so I do apologize for anyone I might offend. Cut the tomato like a whorld. A whorld? Starting with the North Pole, then Scotland, down to Africa. What is she talking about? What is a whorld, I query, miss? You know, the whorld. And eventually it dawns on me. Reverse engineered through the Edinburgh accent, and whorld reverts back to world. Cut the tomato like a world, starting with the North Pole. Ah, the collective light bulb moment of the class. And that was week 1. Bags and blazers off, aprons on, and get cooking. The military-like command is given by the Queen of Scots / head of year 11, and we, the humble students, obey the female William Wallace. Tupperware of all shapes and sizes are opened, packed with flour, sugar, and butter. Eggs we buy at 10p in class. Is it a scone, or will it be a cake? Well, it's neither. No one really knows what it is. The final bake is that bad. I think it was supposed to be gingerbread. Why is your pasta so dry? Because I use 50 grams more flour, miss. You stupid boy, she howls at me, with all the rage and disappointment of a pissed-off Scot. And I quite agree. Damn ass. Round the table, boys, and we gather with our creations for point-based judgment. This week it's pizza. 8. 9. Where's the cheese? Forgot, miss. You stupid boy. 5. 8. You need more colour, some red. Damn it, I even bought a tomato. Where are your ingredients? Forgot, miss. That's the second time in 2 weeks. Sorry, miss. You stupid boy. You came in before everyone else, Barbara, and you still finished last. Why are you so slow? I don't know, miss. You stupid boy? She doesn't say it this time. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Took me right back. Those cookery classes, and what's been a little bit of joy, a lot of joy, is the fact that there's been so much food, and we didn't intend that from starting out with Poetry Dumpling, did we, Ange? I don't think.
No, but I guess the name itself suggests food poems, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Bilal, is there anybody else that would like to be up for the live mic? Shall we throw some of the comments in the mix that we've received from outside as well? Would that be useful?
Yeah,
to know what people are saying. I've just
got a quick question.
Oh,
actually,
yes.
I'm not sure if it was covered at the beginning because I was trying to multitask anyway. So the question is for people watching who are just starting out writing poetry, what do they need to do if they'd like to join Batley Poets?
Great question.
So we have this saying that becomes our slogan of ours, which is that everyone's a Batley Poets. We don't have what we would call like normal members. If you want to listen to poetry, if you want to read poetry, if you want to write poetry, share poetry, then we just consider you as part of the Batley Poets. So you can get in touch with us. You can ask us about when our next events might be. You can come along to one of them, virtually or once they're in person, and you're just kind of in. There's no sort of list you need to join.
So they'd contact you, Bilal, would they?
Yeah.
Do you have a specific meeting time or?
We don't at the moment.
No.
But if you go to the website, there'll be sort of events and news. There's an events and news sort of tab. You can click on that, or you can contact us through there, and we'll tell you when we're meeting up and what's happening.
Perfect. Thank you.
Fantastic. Just wanted to quickly read out a comment that came in from Gaia, who was one of our guest poets, Gaia Holmes, and she's been listening, but not in the background, but from her own PC. And she's saying that she's really enjoying listening, and great poems, great subject matter. What a feast! And that kind of ties in again with all the food and the cakes and everything. So I thought that was lovely. We've got so many coming in, about strong poems. Sophie, thank you. Really enjoying these poems. Batley Poets, thank you. What talent. Really enjoying Loads and loads. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of repeating, really enjoying these poems from Batley poets. So wonderful. It's obviously people are having great joy in hearing you all read your poems, and hopefully will come along and listen to, I'm just going to get that one off, come along and listen to you when you actually are doing them. Are you doing them online at the moment? Is that how you're working?
Yeah, so we did last year, we did a few different events. So we did one for Interfaith Week, one for Black History Month. We did a couple over the summer, I think. This year we haven't done anything as much, so I think we'll probably have something coming on along soon.
And hopefully once the library buildings and things start opening, and if we can be running some of these events in those buildings, whether it's Batley Library or Heckmondwike or Huddersfield, Dewsbury, then hopefully we'll be able to meet you all in person and actually properly applaud and shout out all in person as well. Right, so we're very close to the end of our first ever Poetry Dumpling, and it's been an absolute wonderful way to celebrate World Poetry Day. Oh, Angela's got a hand up. Hi, Ange.
Yeah, sorry, I've just noticed a comment coming in from Sophie saying that she's collecting poetry for a book she's putting together for publishing called The Fire Speaks. And if anyone wants to be involved, they can contact Sophie at Batley Poets, presumably, Sophie. And also that she's hoping to set up Huddersfield Poets now that she's moved to Huddersfield. So that's great news for the poetry scene in Huddersfield. Thank you, Sophie.
Do you want to say anything about that, Sophie, while you're on screen?
Yeah, you can contact me on Twitter as well, under Sophie_Patel92, or you'll find me through Batley Poets. That's a bit obvious. And for Huddersfield Poets, I actually started putting the group together just before the pandemic last year, and I got a lot of people from Huddersfield interested. But then the pandemic hit us, and I had to put a pause on that. But as soon as this pandemic is over, there's quite a few Huddersfield poets keen to get involved and be out there doing some more open mic events.
So one of the things they could always do is, I'm just trying to think if there's a way that people can email the libraries and we can send on, or just, I guess, email Batley Poets. Is that probably the best thing to do? With your name.
I'll let Bilal answer that question.
I mean, if they email us, I'll just forward any information over to Sophie.
Yeah, that might be quite a good way, do you think? Because you'll have obviously Sophie's details. Wonderful, lovely. So we're actually out of time. I guess Ange and I probably just want to say an enormous thank you for Batley Poets joining us. You're our first local writers group to join our first Poetry Dumpling. And thank you for being so enthusiastic about sharing your poetry with everybody and sharing ways that people can actually join a poetry group, either join to listen, which I think is important as well, because not everybody's ready to be writing or wanting to share straight away, are they? But from what I know about Batley Poets is that it won't be long before the sharing of poetry, because you all seem such a great group and very encouraging for would-be writers. I just want to mention that our next, keep an eye on the Kirklees website, so kirkleeslibraries.co.uk. We have got writer in residence events, we've got children and family events, we've got a great ebook collection of poetry as well, where you can find out things there. I'm just going to have a quick look at my notes and hand over to Ange just in case I'm missing things. Hi, Angela.
Just a date for your diaries. The next Poetry Dumpling is on Saturday, the 22nd of May. So that's Saturday, the 22nd of May. And we'll have another guest poet on then, somebody really exciting. So join us for Poetry Dumpling then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the beginning and it's evolving, and who knows what it'll be like in a few months' time. But what a pleasure it's been to have Batley Poets with us today. So I think it's just a matter of saying bye.
Yeah.
I hope
Thanks,
you all
everybody.
enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for taking
Bye.
part. It's
Thank
been
you.
wonderful.